Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. I worked my butt off for years to be able to afford the house of my dreams. At 32 years old, I had finally made it when I bought a beautiful $750K home in a nice neighborhood. The house had everything I could ever want. A big kitchen, a home theater, a pool. It was perfect. I was excited to finally have a place to host friends and family and throw parties. I'm a huge music lover, especially classic rock, so I looked forward to blasting Led Zeppelin and AC/DC while everyone hung out by the pool with some beers. No more annoying neighbors complaining about noise at my old apartment. Boy, was I wrong. The first couple months living there were great. I invited buddies over to watch football games, and had some people over on the weekends to swim and listen to tunes. Nothing crazy. I wasn't trying to bother anyone. One Saturday afternoon, I had about 15 friends over for a pool party. We were grilling up burgers, having some drinks, and generally having a good time. I had Back in Black playing at a reasonable volume over my outdoor speakers. At 7 p.m. on a Saturday, I didn't think this would be an issue. Apparently, my next-door neighbor, Karen, didn't agree. At around 8 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Karen standing there looking pissed off. Before I could even say hello, she started screaming at me to turn off that devil music immediately. I tried to politely explain that it was just a small get-together and that we'd be finishing up in an hour or so. Well, that set her off even more. "This neighborhood is for hard-working, God-fearing families, not hooligans like you blasting satanic rock music," she shouted. I was in shock. I told her I was sorry she felt that way, but that I wasn't breaking any rules and would not be changing my taste in music. She stormed off, yelling that I'd regret this. I thought that would be the end of it. Karen glared at me from across the fence when I was outside, but otherwise kept her distance. A few weeks later, I had another get-together, this time just grilling and hanging out without music. I made sure to tell everyone to keep any noise to a minimum since Karen was clearly uptight. Apparently our laughter carried too much though, because at 9:30 p.m., Karen was at my door again. Same angry tantrum about disrespectful punks, even though there was no music playing at all. She ranted about how I was destroying the neighborhood until I finally had to tell her to get off my property. Her eyes narrowed and she hissed, "You'll pay for this, I promise," before stomping away. I was getting worried about what she might try to do. Other neighbors told me Karen had lived there for 20 years and constantly harassed anyone she decided she didn't like. Some people had even moved away because of her unhinged behavior. I decided to just try to avoid her as much as possible. I stopped having get-togethers at my house and didn't go outside if I knew she was home. The last thing I wanted was to get stuck in some crazy feud. One night, I had 2 friends over to watch a movie. We picked a weekday and made sure to keep things quiet as could be. At 11 p.m., just as we were saying goodbye, the doorbell rang. My heart sank as I looked out to see Karen standing there yet again. I opened the door, preparing myself for another scream fest, but she just stood there smiling sweetly. In an overly polite voice, she said, "I'm very sorry for the misunderstandings. I wanted to come apologize and be a good neighbor." I was immediately suspicious, but I cautiously said, "Oh, well, apology accepted. Have a good night." "You too, dear. Sleep well," she said, still grinning. The whole thing gave me the creeps. I knew Karen was up to something. The next morning, I left to go to work. Everything seemed normal at first as I backed my car out of the driveway. But when I looked back at my house, I almost crashed in shock. Flames and black smoke were pouring out of my living room windows. I jumped out of the car and ran to the front door. I could feel the intense heat radiating from inside. The fire must have already been raging for some time. There was no way I could get inside. I called 911 and watched helplessly as the fire demolished my beautiful home and everything I owned. It was a complete inferno by the time the firefighters arrived. After what seemed like forever, they were able to extinguish the flames. But there was nothing left except a smoldering, crumbling pile of rubble. I was in a state of shock and despair. How could this have happened? As I sat on the curb sobbing, a cop came over to ask some questions about what happened. As we talked, something made me bring up my neighbor Karen and all the clashes we had recently. The officer got a serious look on his face and said they would look into it. About an hour later, he came back over to me with an update that turned my despair into raging fury. Karen had admitted to starting the fire. She said she did it to purge the neighborhood of the evil rock music. The psycho had broken into my house, doused the living room in gasoline, and lit it up as an act of righteous retribution. She said rock music was the devil's language and she was on a mission from God to eradicate it. I wanted to strangle her scrawny little neck. She destroyed everything I owned and left me homeless because of her demented vendetta against classic rock. The police arrested her and charged her with first-degree arson. She kept ranting about how she did everyone a favor by burning down my den of sin. Her smug self-righteousness made me sick. With the help of the police and fire department reports, I was able to sue Karen for the full value of my house and possessions, plus pain and suffering. Her unhinged hatred ended up costing her big time. The trial was quick, once all the evidence came out proving her guilt. She got sentenced to 15 years in prison, but I don't think that was nearly enough for the damage she caused. In the end, I was able to use the settlement money to rebuild an even bigger and better house in a gated neighborhood far away from psychos like Karen. I crank AC/DC as loud as I want now, and haven't heard a single complaint from my new neighbors. I just couldn't believe someone could be so deranged that they would burn down a house simply because they didn't like the type of music playing. Karen's religious obsession destroyed my property and could have killed people. I'll never understand how she could justify any of it in her twisted mind. Some people just snap, and there's no rationality left. As much as I despise dealing with her, I'm grateful I made it out alive and was able to get some justice in the end. It definitely taught me the importance of keeping away from unhinged characters who let their issues put others in danger. I feel sorry for whoever ends up being her neighbor when she gets out of jail. The next one is a pro-revenge story. Several years ago, my friend, whom we'll call Boris, and I would always help each other with the spring cleanup for our properties. This included taking out damaged trees, preparing garden plots, and taking care of our weed-infested yards. I was going to be the first on the cleanup detail, so I prepared tools and implements the Friday before the big cleanup was to happen. Sharpening tools and chainsaw chains, lawnmower blade, and just getting everything in order. Among those tasks was mixing gas with 2-cycle oil. I finished up kind of late and generally put things away for the next day. The next morning, Boris showed up with coffee and biscuits around 8 a.m. As we were sitting on his tailgate enjoying breakfast, my neighbors rode by in their beat-to-hell Chevy Cavalier, smoking like a freight train. We'll call them Rocky and Bullwinkle. Boris and I made the usual jokes about the amount of smoke pouring from the exhaust. Damn, bet they go to the gas station and fill up with oil and check the gas. We soon finished breakfast and thought no more about it. As we began to get the tools laid out and hashed out a plan of attack, I could not find my gas cans. No mixed gas, regular gas, or a gas can in general. That's when it dawned on us why the car Rocky and Bullwinkle were driving was smoking so bad. I'm pissed, to say the least. Well, all Boris and I could do was go shopping for gas cans, gas, and more 2-cycle oil. After we returned, we saw Rocky and Bullwinkle pass by several times. But all in all, we got a lot done. The next weekend we dedicated to cleanup at Boris's. A weekend or two went by and we had a family dinner at my wife's, Rocky and Bullwinkle's, grandparents'. Toward the latter part of the evening, we were having a few drinks. Most people had left, and my wife's grandfather and I were shooting the breeze when I had to take a leak. As I was doing so, I saw a gas can with very distinct paint on it. I inquired from the old man about how it came into his possession, and he stated Rocky and Bullwinkle left it there. I simply explained it was mine, as was another, and loaded them into my truck. It ate at me every time that POS car with my post neighbors went by, so I hatched a plan from a rotten egg. I went and bought a few gallons of gas, a few gallons of diesel fuel, and some other various oils. I made a concoction of these different chemicals and filled my new 6-gallon gas can I had to purchase. With some clean gas, I filled the lawnmower and cut some grass that evening, making sure Rocky and Bullwinkle saw me. Then I put everything away but forgot and left that rotten egg gas can out. I got up and went to work the next morning and didn't even think to check on the can. But when I got home, I checked, and it was gone. My wife informed me that my plan must have worked as she watched Rocky and Bullwinkle go in and out with the car, not only smoking but spitting and sputtering as well. The last time they rode out, they didn't ride back in. They gave me about an hour of peace before they came over and wanted to know if I could look at the car and see what was wrong. If it could not be fixed on the side of the road, maybe tow it home. My response? I've had a long day and have a migraine. Maybe tomorrow. I saw the panic set in when I told them that. That's when they told me they had no insurance and it was on a main road. Tough luck. So the highway patrol did run across it and had it towed. It was going to cost them around $500 to get it out of impound, plus they had to have current registration and insurance. The car wasn't worth it. Well, they're those types of people that good luck just falls on them. And the pastor for a local church gave them an old Ford Taurus. It took me a few cans of rotten egg gas, but I got the motor to lock up after about a month. This time it quit in their grandparents' yard, so they scrapped it, and as luck would have it, they got their income tax returns. They bought a nice-looking Ford F-150, but it began having problems too. Smoked really bad. They did take it to a mechanic who eventually found the problem. He got the truck running right again for about $1,500, and I have never had any more gas come up missing. The next one is a petty revenge story. I'm a 34-year-old man who runs a marketing agency here in the UK that employs 5 people. I also pride myself on being fairly rational, empathetic, and level-headed. I'm saying this for no other reason than to underscore how out of character this was for me. I live in a small house in a mostly student area. For the most part, it's fine. The students in the nearby houses have the occasional house party on Fridays, Saturday nights, but never on weekdays. And until recently, they've usually finished by midnight, so it doesn't bother me. This new bunch of guys that moved in next door in November have been absolute dickheads, though. House parties until 5 a.m. on weekdays, letting random friends park on my driveway without asking, heckling, making fun of me as a group when we're both outside, all the good stuff. I've just rolled my eyes and ignored it for the most part, but I'm still human, so the constant disrespect still pisses me off. A couple weeks ago, however, I was working next to my window. I saw one of them taking a bin bag full of rubbish outside, and realizing there was no space in any of their bins, just walk into my driveway and put it in mine. For some reason, despite it being far from the worst thing they've done, that just irritated the crap out of me. I don't know why that was the straw exactly. Just something about the combination of both the arrogance and the duck-you presumptuousness of it, combined with this bubbled-up resentment from all their nonsense till now, really got under my skin. So a week later, I woke up at 4 a.m. on a non-party day when I knew they'd be asleep, grabbed a random bag of the nastiest rubbish I could find from someone's bin down the street, so there's nothing to point to this being me, and went to their house. In the UK, mail is delivered through your door into your house via a postbox that's freely accessible. So, I painstakingly posted all of this absolutely disgusting rubbish through their letterbox. It took me a solid 20 minutes, as I had to take multiple fresh air breaks to avoid throwing up. Then just to seal the deal, I emptied a bottle of milk through as well, just to make it extra fun for them to clean up in the morning, and taped a note saying, "Stop talking to my girlfriend," to their door to further minimize the chance of retaliation. Having seen the entrance area of their house from knocking on the door in the past, I know it's carpeted. I've never done anything like this in my life, and it might have been a bit much, but I do feel a lot better now. The next one is a malicious compliance story. I work in claims, and because we're long-term personal injury claims, we're not considered a call center, but we do take calls from our claimants and need to be available to take calls from claimants. And on average, I receive about 6-8 calls a day, but generally, only 4 of those are for me. Recently, there has been a trend of some colleagues putting themselves on unavailable for long periods of time, 3+ hours daily, to avoid calls, and when you reach out to ask if they're free for a call, they don't respond until it's been at least 5 minutes, because in that time you've probably ended the call for them anyway. I'd taken a call for a colleague named Sally already, and in a department of 100+ colleagues, 2 calls for one person is unusual, when I received another call, but this time it was from an external complaints body wanting to ask Sally some questions, which at that stage not yet a complaint. At 2:32 I messaged Sally to ask if she's free, and while I wait I get the background from the nice external complaints person. At 2:42, she replied and said, "Sorry, I was just on a call, everything okay?" And I immediately replied saying, "No, they're still on the call and I can transfer you." Sally immediately backtracks and says, "Sorry, I'm still on the call, can you take a message?" What Sally doesn't know is that I can see her status and it's set to do not disturb and not on a call, so I know she's just trying to get out of taking calls, but I just agreed, and I decided instead of resolving the call, I would take a message and pass it on. As requested, I took a message from the nice external complaints person. As I wasn't able to resolve the query, I confirmed that I would escalate it urgently to Sally's manager and our internal complaints team, as they wanted to know about an urgent payment that hadn't been processed in a week. Sally immediately replied and said I should have said who it was, and she'd have taken the call. That's so odd. I thought she was on a call. The next one is an entitled people story. Me, 18 years old, male. My younger cousin, 6 years old, male. Karen, guess, random saleswoman. I'm from Serbia and our relatives moved to America a long time ago. After a few years, we finally managed to organize a visit to America together with our relatives and obtain visas. It was a nice and strange experience there, but that's not the point of this story. After a few days, my parents sent me with my little cousin, 6 years old, also from Serbia, to do some shopping. They sent me, and my cousin, let's call him David, asked if he could come with me. I said, why not? And got permission from his parents. Off we went. David can barely speak Serbian, let alone English. He knows how to count in English and can say cat. And I think that's the extent of his English knowledge. You have to understand, in Serbia, kids his age are still learning the alphabet. In a local store, we started gathering groceries, and of course, I was talking to David in Serbian. If someone addressed him, I translated what they said. After a few minutes, Karen arrives, literally fitting the stereotype except for not wearing glasses. Karen. You're in America, speak English. Me. Sorry. Karen. You're in America, speak English, you stupid immigrants. Me. I'm not from here. I'm a tourist staying with relatives. Karen. It doesn't matter, speak English. Me. But my cousin doesn't know English. He can barely speak our native language. Karen. You Russians are poisoning the country. You should be kicked out. Serbian and Russian can sound very similar to someone unfamiliar with Slavic languages. Me. We're not Russians, we're Serbians. Karen. That's part of Russia, I can tell by your accent. Me, now angry because she's insulting my country. Just leave me alone and don't insult a country you don't even know exists. Karen. It's probably irrelevant. Me. Leave me please. Karen. All Russians are the same. David. What is this woman saying? Karen. Teach him to speak English. Saleswoman. I'll call the police. You're already banned from this store. Karen. They are spies here to destroy our country. I still don't know who, but someone called the police, and 10 minutes later, 4 officers arrived. Karen. These are Russian spies. Saleswoman. This woman has already been warned not to come back here. Karen. No, these are Russian spies. The police arrested her and asked us what happened. We told them, and they said they would consider it for the lawsuit. However, she was already in big trouble for reasons they didn't tell me. What she did was minor compared to the undisclosed issues. That night, we received an apology coupon, and the saleswoman told us that Karen had participated in a robbery at another store in the same chain. She was banned from all stores of that chain and was on probation. As for David, he surprisingly remained calm, and I bought him some toys to forget about the incident. The saleswoman asked me not to disclose which store this happened in, and I don't know why. The next one is an entitled parent story. This post is all over the place, so bear with me. I just found out I have mast cell activation syndrome. All my life I was a sick kid, kept inside and missed out on so much. Everyone thought my mom was making me sick for attention, but turns out she was keeping me sick for attention. I was always covered in hives, often kept out of school for long stretches of time, even when I felt fine. My parents would never take me to the doctor when I needed it a kid. Every little cold I had turned into pneumonia. Like I never just got over a small cold easily. Yet there was magically an endless supply of pain pills and Ritalin, so she went to the doctors for herself. I'm pretty sure she was sleeping with one of the doctors to get oxy, but I digress. My grandmother would try to get me help, as would my older sister, but my parents often won. I also had untreated scoliosis. That's progressed into kyphoscoliosis now. I was supposed to have corrective surgery as a kid, but she opted out. That being said, I had a lot of back pain as a kid, but I was just fed pain pills and codeine syrup and told to tough it out. I am totally sober now, but as a teen into my early 20s, I was hooked on pills thanks to her, but I'm going off topic. My husband and I have been searching for a diagnosis for a well over decade. I've been gaslit by so many doctors and told I was fine. Told to just drop some pounds and I'd feel better. My husband and my friends suspected it was something autoimmune like lupus. Lately, I've become allergic to the sun ever since August 2023. I had this issue as a toddler and randomly in middle school as well. Seems to come and go. But I'm trying to keep track of all the things that make me flare, but I have answers. I just got them in a really messed up way. I reckon my mom is close to death and I guess is feeling remorse because she just told me I was diagnosed with mast cell instability in 1991 when I was a child at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. I'm 37 years old now. 37. She knew this whole time. I now have a slew of health issues, a crumbling spine, crippling migraines, vision issues, urinary issues, reproductive issues, early onset osteoarthritis and osteoporosis. I'm an artist who can barely create art anymore because of the arthritic pain in my hands. Doctors say I have the spine of a 80-year-old. Perhaps if I had proper treatment or even knew about this, I would have been able to be proactive and have a normal life. It would also have been cool to have doctors listen to me, so I could have found this out earlier, but maybe that is me trying to make excuses for not blaming my mom. I can't have kids, I can't have a career. I can barely walk some days. I just don't know how to digest this. Granted, my mom is a pill addict in poor health, and I guess this was a moment of clarity for her, but why now? Why watch me spend thousands and years on doctors when she knew all along? Did she genuinely forget? It seems kind of ducked to forget your toddler being diagnosed with a rare disease at a famous hospital. My dermatologist, who is helping me with my sun allergy, said, "It makes perfect sense, but where do I go from here? All these years was I just supposed to take a crap ton of antihistamines? Just a few pills, vitamins, steroids, and maybe some shots, and I could have had a normal life?" I don't quite know the treatments for mast cell as I just freaking learned of its existence, but I'm currently learning all about it and I'm on a crap ton of antihistamines from the dermatologist. I am so angry, and I feel so stupid. I am so hurt, yet I still feel guilty for feeling mad at her because she's bedridden and probably going to die soon. All these health issues I had I thought were separate, but they're all from mast cell. My therapist years ago said I was a victim of Munchausen by proxy via medical neglect, and I didn't want to believe her, but I surely do now. She took my life from me. Granted, she has a slew of untreated mental health issues and had a life of trauma, but instead of getting help, she did this to me? I guess I really am the product of generational trauma. Her reasoning for not taking me to the doctors as a kid was, I was a very hyperactive and hard to deal with child, and running to and from doctors' offices was too much. She also said that it wasn't a big deal because sometimes the symptoms and hives will go away. But that's the ducking disease. It comes and goes. It has flares. She also says how dare I put this guilt on her now. I also am dealing with a fairly new ADHD and ASD diagnosis. That also makes a lot of sense. Mast cell and autism often go hand in hand, I am told. I'm just so hurt and confused. Even as an adult, it still hurts to know that your parents don't give a crap about you. My sister says I should go no contact with my parents because of this recent discovery. She already has because our father is abusive too, but that's a whole other story. But I don't know how, and I feel guilty because she's probably going to die soon. I still feel this guilty duty towards her. She pulls me in somehow. My sister said she's a true narcissist. My brother-in-law says I should sue, but my parents already have such a horrible life now it wouldn't matter, and it would just cost me time and money. I don't understand why anyone would willingly have kids to just not give a duck about them. I also reached out to an old family friend that worked at Johns Hopkins in the 80s and 90s, and she confirmed it's true, but she says I should try to find some old medical records. They're probably on microfiche or something. I don't even know how to start that. Part of me feels stupid for sitting here feeling sorry for myself, but I don't know how to feel right now. Anyways, thanks for reading. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.